is Jaden Burns, and I am 15 years old, turning 16 in November. I am currently a second-year TA, and I'm from Diboll, Texas, and I attend Diboll High School as a sophomore. I became a TA for one specific reason, and that was because I have a brother that passed away, coming on 3 years now. He started off with tobacco, and that led him to drugs, and those drugs led him to hurting himself. So now I wanted to help others not go through the pain that me and my family are still going through to this day.
Hey everyone, my name is Victoria and I'm from the west tip of Texas called El Paso. This is my second year as a teen ambassador and I'm 17 years old. A little bit about me, I love to paint, I love to create, I love to draw, I love to present. A little bit controversial hot take, but I also really enjoy mustard.
Hello everyone, my name is Charlene Moore. I'm a senior at Jefferson High School. This is my 4th year as a teen ambassador. I'm 17 years old and I'm a teen ambassador because I want to do my part to protect and educate today's youth.
Hello everybody, my name is Ella. I am a 4th year teen ambassador from South Texas, all the way in a little small town called Sinton. I am 17 years old, and a little fun fact about me is I was actually part of Say What's first ever virtual summit all the way back in 2020. And now I am back for Say What's first ever Red Ribbon Week virtual summit. I'm super excited. Let's go ahead and get this started.
The Texas School Safety Center is an official level research center at the Texas State University. The center is dedicated to creating healthier schools and communities, which is where the Say What program runs.
So who is Say What? You may have never heard of us before, or you may have a youth group of your own, but we are a coalition of hundreds of youth groups across the state of Texas working against tobacco, from the middle school to the high school level, including teen ambassadors, consultants, and staff.
I myself have a youth group at my school, and we do a lot of really awesome things within our community. But just in case you didn't catch what exactly Say What stands for, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys. So Say What stands for Students, Adults, and Youth Working Hard Against Tobacco. And just like it says in the name, that's exactly what we are doing. We are working hard against tobacco to be the first tobacco-free generation. And we have been working towards this goal since 2011 when Say What was established.
Say What Teen Ambassadors are the youth voice of a statewide movement dedicated to connecting communities and educating about the manipulation and misinformation about vaping and all other commercialized tobacco products. We take action in a variety of ways. We do presentations in person and virtually, and we also advocate on social media. So we highly encourage you to follow us on almost all social media platforms at TXSayWhat to stay connected about different advocacy efforts, information, resources, and so much more.
Now that we know a little bit about Say What, let's go ahead and get into this year's Red Ribbon Week Summit. The theme for this year's Red Ribbon Week is Celebrate Life. In order to live our lives to the fullest extent, we must live our lives drug and especially tobacco-free. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of and just how you can live a tobacco-free lifestyle. To start, we'll go through a few of the common misconceptions about vaping, and then we'll talk about how Big Tobacco uses their marketing tactics to push these misconceptions. And then we'll talk about how you can create change. And change starts with just one person. So we're going to show you how you can help a friend in need quit. And lastly, we'll talk about how we can create bigger change in our communities and our state as a whole.
Hey y'all, I have heard so many misconceptions about vaping marijuana and vaping tobacco, and I'm pretty sure all my other teen ambassadors have too. So one that I've heard is that vaping marijuana and vaping tobacco are not dangerous because they're natural and they come from the ground. But a lot of stuff comes from the ground, and a lot of it can be deadly or poisonous. Right, Victoria?
Yeah, I've heard some of those myths too. I mean, just the other day, someone was telling me that they feel like they drive better because they're using marijuana. And come on, let's be honest. High schoolers don't drive very well. At least I wouldn't like to admit the amount of curbs I've hit. So when you pair that with marijuana use, the results are just very dangerous.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that before. I mean, I've even heard people say that vaping marijuana is better than vaping tobacco. So at this point, there are just so many different myths and misconceptions about vaping, so it can be hard to know what's true. So today, we are going to debunk 5 of the biggest myths about vaping so you know the truth. One of the biggest myths that we have to debunk is the whole idea that vapes are safer. Whether it's nicotine or marijuana, many people think that a vape pen is less harmful than actually smoking cigarettes or marijuana because they're not technically inhaling smoke. But that's simply not true.
One reason people may believe that vaping is safer than using traditional cigarettes is because they may think that vapes don't contain any nicotine. However, this is far from the truth. In fact, just one vape pod can contain as much nicotine as up to 2 packs of cigarettes. Nicotine content in vapes is actually not regulated in the United States, which is why there has been a steady increase in nicotine content in these products over the years. Another reason that vaping is dangerous is because it causes damage to all of the major organs, including the lungs, the liver, the heart, and the brain. The same thing can be said about vaping marijuana or dabbing because it also causes damage to the tissues of the lungs, making the user more susceptible to infections like COVID-19. We can actually see examples of this damaged lung tissue here. On the left, we can see examples of healthy lung tissue, and on the right, we see examples of lung tissue that has been damaged from vaping. A new report from the Mayo Clinic has come out, and it shows that lung damage from vaping actually resembles toxic chemical fume exposure, or a chemical burn injury, and exposure to poisons like mustard gas, a chemical weapon used in World War I.
So, what is the difference between vaping and vaping marijuana? None. It's actually equally dangerous. Vaping either drug can lead to lung disease, coughing, airway inflammation, or other health issues. As of today, more than 2,800 cases of e-cigarette or vaping product use associated with lung injury have been reported from all 50 states. In Texas, we have some of the highest vaping-related injuries in the United States, with at least 250 lung injuries. In 29 states, 68 deaths were confirmed. As of today, 4 deaths were reported in Texas alone, including a 15-year-old in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
You may not vape, but if you're around a friend or somebody else who does vape, that affects you too. A lot of people believe that because they aren't directly taking a hit of the vape, the aerosol someone breathes out when they are taking a hit doesn't affect them. But it does. They are breathing in a toxic blend of nicotine, THC, cannabinoid oils, and other additives. Now get this, flavors are the #1 reason that youth vape, but the chemicals that make these flavors dangerous are not well known. For example, vegetable glycerin is safe for eating, but not for inhaling. Our stomachs can handle the substance, but our lungs cannot. Repeated exposure to this chemical can lead to inflammation and irritation of the lungs. Propylene glycol is another of the chemicals. It's used in antifreeze. Yes, the same antifreeze that goes in our cars. It turns to vapor when heated and can create propylene oxide, which can cause cancer. Diethylene glycol is also found in antifreeze and brake fluid. It's used as a base in e-liquids. It is highly toxic and can be linked to lung disease. Clearly, vapes aren't water like we're made to believe.
Another incredibly harmful chemical that can be found in e-cigarettes is diacetyl. Diacetyl is a yellow liquid that provides an intense buttery flavor and could also potentially lead to popcorn lung disease. Popcorn lung is the inflammation and scarring of your airways, which can make it extremely hard to breathe. So, we covered a few chemicals, but there is also a variety of toxic metals that can be found in e-cigarettes and secondhand aerosol like nickel and lead. Toxic metals like nickel and lead can cause heart and lung problems, nasal cavity damage, and it can also affect your memory and learning abilities.
Another chemical found in vapes, but most commonly found in marijuana vapes, is vitamin E acetates. Just like all the other chemicals that we discussed, this one is safe to ingest, but not safe to inhale. If you can remember the two maps that Jaden discussed earlier, this substance in particular is one of the many reasons that thousands have been hospitalized and even a few have died. Vitamin E acetate is a sticky oil substance that clings to lung tissue. Research is still being conducted on this substance, but we do know that it causes lung damage and serious health issues. To tell us more about these health issues resulting from vaping, from a first-hand perspective, we're going to watch a video from Dr. Devika Rao, a pediatric pulmonologist.
There was definitely a sense of alarm that these kids were coming in so sick and that there was a little bit of fear of the unknown as to what this actually was.
There's been a huge surge of high schoolers using e-cigarettes or vaping,
causing severe lung illnesses possibly linked to marijuana vaping.
Vaping by teenagers has reached epidemic levels.
In the summer and fall of 2019, at one point we were admitting teens with vaping lung injuries several times a week. And that was like at the peak. We saw kids who had mild symptoms on one end of the spectrum and really severe symptoms on the other end of the spectrum, and then everything in between. So we saw teens who couldn't breathe on their own and they needed ventilators to help them breathe, having complications like air leaks in their lung, requiring even heart-lung bypass at the very worst. We saw many teens who initially came to us with coughing, shortness of breath with activity, vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, abdominal pain. And we saw that they had high levels of inflammation in their bodies. We saw abnormal findings of their lungs when we did CT scans and chest x-rays. Normally in medicine, we rely on what we call evidence-based medicine, based on data, based on studies. We didn't have any of that. And so because this was completely new, it was really tough to be able to face these patients, these young people and their parents, and tell them that we didn't know exactly how things were going to turn out. We found that kids were vaping a lot. They had been vaping anywhere ranging from a few months to a few years. And they were vaping all sorts of different products, not just marijuana, but nicotine, disposables, Juul, so many different kinds of products. We have years worth of research that shows that what you're inhaling from a vaping device is not safe. The substances or toxins in the aerosol that's generated can cause lung injury. And what does that look like? It can look like a condition where you may have difficulty clearing your own mucus. The lungs have a natural ability to clear mucus. They have these tiny microscopic hair cells that beat and bring up mucus, and you swallow it and you don't even know that your lungs are protecting you from the outside world. If you look at the surface area of the lungs, it is the same as half a tennis court size. It's really, really big. And naturally, it needs a way to fight off infections because of all the things in the air. I think we understand that very well now, being in a pandemic, and this is why we have to wear masks. Along with the possibility of an increased risk of infection, There's also an association with more inflammation. We have a lot of medical evidence to suggest that what you're inhaling from vapes directly is toxic to the cells of the lung and can cause inflammation, can cause even cell death in the lungs. These processes are not good for your breathing. They can lead to real symptoms. What concerns me is that, number one, that we're addicting a whole new generation of young people to nicotine and marijuana. The addiction is happening at the most vulnerable time in adolescence, in the teenage years. That really sets up teenagers and young people for a lifelong issue. The second most important thing is that we don't know the long-term outcomes, the long-term repercussions of using e-cigarettes starting at an early age. And so those are the two most concerning things for me as we battle this epidemic of vaping.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for sharing that information with us. Now let's go ahead and talk about another product that people may think is safe and even beneficial to use. Diffuser sticks, also known as personal diffusers, are aromatherapy vape pens. They use a combination of water, essential oils, and vegetable glycerin that, when heated, turns into a cloud of aromatherapy vapor. When essential oils are heated, they convert into toxic chemicals that can cause damage to our mouth, our lungs, our nose, and to our teeth. While essential oil vapes don't actually contain any nicotine, we've already learned just how harmful vegetable glycerin can be to our health. Now you may be wondering, I have an aromatherapy diffuser at home on my nightstand or maybe even on my kitchen counter. Now these products are different because they don't heat the vapor to as high temperatures as these personal diffusers do. And you're also not inhaling this vapor directly into your lungs, which is why essential oil vapes can be so harmful. Now let's talk about big myth number 3. This one is, you can't get addicted to vapes. Come on now, this one's a little bit ridiculous. Vapes are designed to be highly addictive in nature. Jaden's gonna tell us more about addiction.
Addiction doesn't have to be just drugs. It could be biting your nails, scrolling through TikTok, or even for me, it's coffee. If I don't have my cup of coffee in the morning, it absolutely ruins my day. Addiction is like a really bad habit that takes complete control over your life. We, as youth, are at more risk of becoming addicted to using harmful products because our brain is still growing. This makes it easier for our minds to have this condition. Popular pod-based e-cigarettes and disposables use nicotine salts. Nicotine salts are basically pure nicotine mixed with acids to neutralize nicotine's bitter taste. This allows the device to deliver more nicotine at a higher concentration. Free-base nicotine, which is found in cigarettes, enters the bloodstream through the user's mouth and throat. Because nicotine and salts are easier to smoke, the nicotine has a more direct passage to the lungs, and they can lead to a higher nicotine blood content in a shorter amount of time. Nicotine is as addictive as heroin, alcohol, and cocaine.
The addictive part of marijuana is known as THC, and it's found in marijuana vapes. Think of it as the nicotine in e-cigarettes, and like nicotine in e-cigarettes, the concentration of THC is increasing to dangerously addictive levels. In fact, people who begin using marijuana before the age of 18 are 4 to 7 times more likely to develop marijuana use disorder, which is concerning because the young brain is especially vulnerable, as you're about to find out. Have you ever heard it's easier for young people to learn new things or pick up a new skill? Addiction is a form of learning a new habit, and since young people learn faster than older people, an addiction can develop so much faster. Consuming marijuana both chemically and physically affects the brain, but it also induces anxiety, irritability, mood swings, and a loss of impulse control. And sometimes these symptoms can seem like they're not that important or not that big of a deal. But in this next video, we'll see how these chemicals actually affect a user's brain and a user's life.
Often I see no difference
Okay, all right. What kind of meeting?
Said I don't want to talk about it.
Wait. Trey, what are you doing?
Hey. Yes! Yes! Wait, what is going on with you? Get out!
Andy!
Get out of my room! Get out!
Andy! I'm not lying. I didn't say anything. Yes, you did. No, you didn't.
The fourth big myth that we like to debunk is the whole idea that vaping helps with stress and relaxation. And the sad thing is that vaping companies have been taking advantage of the pandemic to advertise their products as an aid to stress and relaxation. And their marketing works. Feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression are a main reason as to why our peers choose to start vaping. The truth is the exact opposite, though. Vaping nicotine or marijuana worsens feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression. As a matter of fact, half of youth who vape feel trapped by these products and continue to vape to cope with these feelings, when in reality, it's just making matters worse. In fact, current users are 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with depression than those who do not vape.
Research has also shown that frequent use of marijuana in teens can cause severe mental health issues. Thoughts of suicide, schizophrenia, panic attacks, and not being able to tell what's real and what isn't are scary effects. However, there is some good news here. 90% of youth who quit vaping report feeling less stressed, anxious, and depressed. And 78% of youth who want to quit vaping say that their self-image would improve if they did quit.
It drifts into our lives, exposing us to risk we'd never asked for. Some may think it's harmless because it looks and smells different than before. But don't be fooled. There's no such thing as safe secondhand smoke.
Secondhand aerosol, kind of like secondhand smoke, fills in the spaces around us. It can go through doors, windows, AC units, etc., which means it affects everyone. Some chemicals are propylene glycol, which is a chemical found in paints. This is why painters use masks, so they don't inhale the toxic chemicals released from the paints. Another one is benzene, which is the exhaust from cars. Benzene evaporates into the air very quickly. Benzene is a chemical that is colorless or light yellow at room temperature. Benzene is also a natural part of crude oil, gasoline, and cigarette smoke. It can cause bone marrow not to produce enough red blood cells. It can also damage the immune system by changing blood levels of antibodies and causing the loss of white blood cells when inhaled. Last one is acrolein. Acrolein is most used to make acrylic acid. It is also used to control plant and algae growth in irrigation canals. Acrolein kills or controls microorganisms and bacteria in oil wells, liquid hydrocarbon fuels, cooling water towers, and water treatment ponds. In papermaking, acrolein is used to control slime. Breathing in acrolein can irritate the lungs, causing coughing or shortness of breath. Higher exposures can cause a buildup of fluid in the lungs. Secondhand aerosol is a mixture of nicotine, tiny particles of metals, and other cancer-causing agents. It produces ultrafine particles which settle in the lungs when inhaled by people near vape users. Pollutants from these secondhand aerosols can cause asthma attacks. Teens with asthma who were exposed to secondhand aerosol were 27% more likely to have an asthma attack. Some of these symptoms of the asthmatics would be coughing, wheezing, tightness in their chest, and shortness of breath.
Now that you know the facts about vaping, you may still be wondering, why do some people still choose to vape? People continue to choose to use these products because the tobacco and marijuana industry spend millions of dollars a year on promoting and designing their products to distract the youth from the truth. The most common place for us to hear about e-cigarettes and vapes is on social media because of how much money the industry spends on promoting their products there. As you can imagine and probably have encountered on your very own phone, this is a highly effective tactic as social media has become a part of our everyday lives.
A lot of the times, tobacco and marijuana companies sponsor celebrities and influencers with large platforms to promote their products on social media. In 2019, both Facebook and Instagram stopped allowing paid influencers to promote commercialized tobacco products. But there is not a current system in place to monitor or enforce these regulations among marijuana vapes. The marijuana industry knows how to design their content to appeal to youth culture with young models, recognizable characters, and by pushing their store-branded merchandise. The industry also knows that youth don't have a lot of money, so they promote discounts all the time and encourage heavy use by using hashtags like #VapeWeedEveryday.
Another way that both the tobacco and marijuana industries promote their products is by designing them specifically to target youth. I mean, come on, what youth doesn't like bright colors, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and superheroes? Obviously, these products are designed specifically to target youth like us. Another way that both of these industries promote their products is by promoting false health claims. Even though the Lucky Strike advertisement is from all the way back in 1930 and the Bitty Stick advertisement is more recent from 2019, they are both doing the same thing. They both use medical professionals to sell their lies and deceive people into using their products.
Things are just getting worse because tobacco companies like Altria and British American Tobacco are buying marijuana businesses or stock in marijuana companies. Altria is the largest tobacco company. It is known for brands like Marlboro and Juul. A few years back, Altria bought 45% of Canadian marijuana companies for almost $2 million. This is dangerous because Altria has spent billions of dollars for decades addicting and killing people with their products. They even pay off elected officials to turn their heads and look the other way. Now they are doing this with marijuana companies.
Quitting is tough. When a person vapes, it doesn't say anything about them other than that they have a bad habit that's hard to quit, and those who have quit didn't do it on their own. A user who is supported on their quitting journey is more likely to actually quit vaping. That's why friends and family play a huge role in helping a person become vape-free. It'll be a long journey because we're talking about addiction here, and it isn't an easy struggle. But there are a few things you can do to show your support. Here are 5 things we suggest. First, you can start the conversation by sharing your concern for the well-being and then an interesting fact you learned from today's summit. Second, maybe ask a question to help you understand why they started vaping in the first place and how difficult their addiction is. Third, offer a fun distraction to get their mind off their vape, like going to the movies or taking a walk. Fourth, help them handle a craving. Triggers and cravings are a normal part of quitting, but it doesn't make it any easier. Suggest chewing gum or taking deep breaths and slow breaths. Fifth, reaffirm them that they're doing the right thing if they slip. It happens to almost everyone who quits. They'll probably feel guilty about it too, so getting angry with them won't help. Instead, remind them that they can do it and point out the progress they have made. All right, everyone, you've made it this far into the summit, so now I want you to take out your phone, if you can, and take a picture of this resource. Now, I've shared a few tips for what to do if a friend or family member is struggling with their vape, but what if you're struggling with vaping? There is free, confidential support that is available 24/7, and no one, not even your parents or teachers, will know unless you choose to tell them. UTMD Anderson Cancer Center and Truth Initiative are working together to provide This Is Quitting, completely free to 13 to 24-year-olds in Texas. Even if you aren't struggling with vaping, you can share this with a friend who is.
You can help us and hundreds of other Texas youth create the very first tobacco and nicotine-free society. And you can do this by being an advocate. Advocacy is all about using your voice to help influence decisions.
Because an advocate looks for something that addresses the change they would like to see in their school, community, and state. The point is, you can advocate for anything, as long as it's something you have a passion for and truly believe in.
Advocacy efforts can impact politics, our economy, and our society. And by being here, you have taken your first step to being an advocate. But there's even more that you can do. In fact, we have created a webpage full of fun activities that you can do by yourself or with your friends now and during the summer to create our nicotine-free society.
After the summit's over, you'll be receiving an email with the list of all of the resources and activities that we've talked about today. And the first way that you can advocate is super simple and will take you less than 5 minutes to complete. We can tell the FDA to ban all flavored tobacco products, including menthols and flavored cigars, this year by signing the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids Flavor Ban petition.
Second, tweet the White House to urge our president to take action and recognize vaping as a mental health issue. We can do this by bringing attention to the harmful impact vaping can have on our health.
Host your own tobacco litter cleanup to protect our environment from all types of tobacco litter. Then, tell us about it, and Say What will send you the community service hours for helping protect our environment.
Last but not least, engage with Say What. Not only can you engage with us on social media, but we have so many different resources on our website that you can utilize to start your own youth group in your school or community. All you have to do is visit us at txsaywhat.com.
Once again, make sure you follow us on all of our social medias and use our hashtags so that you can stay connected with us and can help us advocate. Now, on behalf of all of our teen ambassadors and staff, we want to thank you all so much for attending and spending the last hour with us today. We hope you have the knowledge to celebrate your life and live it tobacco and drug-free. Now, happy Red Ribbon Week, everybody. We hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.